What if a game wasn't what it seemed? It's peaceful normally, but then animals start going missing, and you start seeing a lot of bees. What if there was a higher entity? An organization, perhaps? Or what if it was a queen? Queen that sends drones to infest your worlds, and even other games. Hello everyone, and welcome to Slots Available. Oni remene vrohi. It is Greek, but I'll just be referring to it as Slots Available because that's easier to say than my butchered Greek. The second part of their name, from what Google Translate says, is Greek meaning dreamy rain. Most other sources I find when looking it up relate to rain and dreams as well, so I assume it's correct. Now, before we actually dive into the channel, I want to look at its past, but also, quick side note, by this time when this video is up, I've probably created this new channel. It's called The Day Shift, and there's a couple videos on there. If you're not into these more relaxed videos, then you might be in for those more energetic videos over there. If you check it out, then subscribe, and also subscribe here if you're new. I do these videos a lot, and I also have a variety of other content you can check out. I swear it's not as high energy as some of my other stuff coming out. But I know what you're here for. Doing some research on the series, when I found 2 other videos that were over a few years ago. However, the channel had a different name at the time and description. The original words following Slots Available were Ionia Lateria, meaning eternal worship. Something changed. The original channel description read, "Players have enjoyed Minecraft. In the end, the rain wept again with a new body to mourn." Now it reads, "Someone has escaped to Minecraft. In the middle, the rain was alive still. Our rivalry is approaching to a full bloom." We need to consider that these differences in the channel name and description likely signify a shift that will probably come later. But first, let's learn a little bit more about this channel. The first video is Read.Slot, which is a 9-second black and white video where we start in a spruce forest and go into darkness with a buzzing sound in the background. Below us is a pattern of 4 blocks designated in a diamond-like pattern that flashes on the screen within the first few seconds of the video. The description says, "One of our dearest longtime players, loading up a new world. Isn't it marvelous that..." The description ends there. But there is more in the video tags. For those who don't know, the video tags are these neat little things that can be found in the HTML code of a YouTube video, meant to be hidden for recommending power, somehow. If you happen to see it in this video, there are actually YouTube tags, but they're not visible to the average viewer. The tags are, "They are us," and "Check if file loaded properly. Can't risk this time around." Before we analyze anything, let's look at the next few videos to make our judgments. Next is Game Start, where we see a player mining some oak trees for wood. This is the start of their world considering the notification about how they can use wood. We can see that the render distance is quite low with how the fog meant to obscure unloaded terrain is so close. Nothing seems particularly odd about this footage until at 1:19 we can see a 1x1 hole dug into the ground of a mound with darkness inside of it. Then there's the flash of the 4-dot logo as our player reappears in a snowy spruce biome. They have the same 2 pieces of dirt, seed, and logs in their inventory and decide to make a crafting table and sword. They leave the table and walk forward, finding a poppy that they break, but then the game lags. Going forward, they walk into a different biome full of these stone and dirt mushroom-looking structures, looking as if they were copy-pasted in the map. The player falls into an unseen hole, and the terrain generation screen comes up, ending the video. The description says, "Our dearest player doing the preparations for advancing in the game. He is lucky enough to find the mushroom biome." The tags say, "There's too many in the sky." Looking through the video, the player barely ever looks up, and considering their low render distance, we can't see anything in the sky. House building is the next video, with assumedly another player since the aspect ratio of the screen is different and they have a texture pack. They build their house in an odd order with their blocks and go over to cut a tree when there's an odd moment of gurgling audio. The player lags as they try to cut the tree and we hear sounds of buzzing bees. At 1:09 the video cuts to the player in a different spot, missing the logs in their inventory for instead a piece of dirt and seed. They move forward as the buzzing intensifies to see a bee with a Steve face floating over the 4-dot symbol. The video glitches and cuts. The description says, "Endeared player constructs a dwelling place out of foliage. Watch the beautiful process." The tags say, "Switch places? Again? Return items." Mining session starts with the player in a chest with odd organization. The food, logs, and wood are all in odd positions, unstacked. The player takes some items and walks near the river, where we can see a bee looming near the cliff face. The player jumps into a small cave opening and they start to mine downward. At 124 during one of the last frames, we can see the player looking down in their house as there appears to be a bee in their floorboards. A second and some frames later, at 127 we see the symbol flash on screen again. After that, the player unearths a cave below them and we hear intense buzzing. They run only to find they're in a snowy spruce biome with a poppy in front of them. Breaking it ends the video. The description says, "Our dearest most player is seen going deeper. He doesn't seem to find anything, sadly enough. However, he returns to..." The tags say, "Understand the flowering. Can't him take the bloom?" and "Time." Our next video is Animal Farm. No, not the political book by George Orwell. We're back on the player with a different aspect ratio as they're in their house crafting tools. They tend to their animals, breeding them, and then walk off into the night. We hear some buzzing and they grab some stone when there is a cut, and more buzzing. Back at their house, the animals are all gone. The description says, "One of our beloved players taking care of his animals," with the tag saying, "Nutritious and wrong farm." Considering the tags so far, I'm wondering what perspective these ones are from. By wrong farm, is the tone meant to be, "Oops, that was the wrong farm to eat from," or "You made the wrong farm for us"? Sky is next and has the player holding a flint and steel with hundreds of bees flying above him. They cover the sky, just floating there as he seems to try and fail at starting a fire with his flint and steel. There's a cut to a black screen with a flat, high-pitched tone and white text saying, "Unauthorized access." The description says, "Convict 2. Trespassing." The tags say, "Can't be helped," and the other says, "No fire," repeated 6 times. So this is where I want to pause and look back at what we have seen so far. I think we have 3 definitive players. There's the one who is in the game start video, likely new to the game and inexperienced, who has been teleported around. The other is the player with the texture pack, who was in the Acacia area. Now, it's hard to tell if this video definitively has a new player, or if it is possibly just the first player who is rebelling or trying to escape. The GUI size and ratio are the same from Sky and Game Start, so it's safe to say these are either the same player or 2 different people, at least separate from the ones using the texture pack. Now, in Game Start, the tag said "too many in the sky," which alludes to this video being, well, a sky with too many bees. So I'm leaning towards this being the same person, and Convict making me think he has lost favor. Beforehand, they were revealed as Dearest Player. In this video, it's Convict 2. Changing their caring language choice into more analytical, threatening, or even accusatory. What changed him to being their convict? Considering the other videos and the previous title of the channel, I think these are the worshippers, or more closely servants/victims to these bees. I disagree so far that these players are worshipping the bees. Rather, I think they worship the hive, and a hive has a queen. What the 4 symbol means, I have no clue yet. But let's see what we find out next. Low dot slot is similar to the first video, being black and white with a bee above the holes. A sunflower is placed below them, and we move right for the same thing to happen again. A little farther away, a bee is summoned, but the flower used is instead a lily of the valley where the video ends. Having the bees in the background makes me think these bees in pattern are being made into a larger pattern with the 4 dots being 1 bee each. Why? No clue. The description says, "Saving the progress of our players," with the tags "successfully" and "all is fine as long as it is fine." Now I want to interrupt for another small theory. I'm going to backtrack on the thought of these being 3 players again. When the description says, "saving progress of our players," while placing bees and sunflowers, I think the bees might represent the players, or maybe the vessel they will take on. The first 2 get sunflowers. The third receives a drooping lily of the valley. Maybe the sunflowers are for the 2 bees who seem to have been behaving well, earning their dearest moniker, while this bee has been bad. Playing with fire? maybe it can't be helped. Next we have Building Tutorial Path. A few seconds in, a texture pack triggers. The hearts look more like poppies and the hunger bar like bowls of honey. The chest in front of them has a golden shovel while their inventory is full of the lilies. They start tilling the dirt into a path and walk out into the void realm where they seem stuck. The description says, "In this video our new player will teach you how to make a path." The tags being Building Minecraft, Tutorial, and Punishment. The last tag makes me think this may be Convict 2, but this is also, at least I believe, the first video with a thumbnail, it being a white canvas that says Building Tutorial number 1 on it. Is this an instructional video? Or possibly a warning? Cave Exploration is an odd video with seemingly 2 characters, both with a stone pickaxe and between 1 to 4 torches. 2 for a majority of the video. One has 11 levels, the other has 3. The aspect ratios are different for both, one having black borders at the top and bottom of the screen. The cave system the 2 are exploring could be the same cave system, but it's a bit difficult to tell. At 124, one of the players dies from being in fire, the one with 11 levels. When dying, it says 210124 at 00-59 tried to swim in lava. The one with 3 levels burned, but we don't see them die to truly verify if they're different players. If there were any oddities hidden in the dark footage, I'll be pointing them out in post and brightening for everyone to see easier. However, when I previously checked, I didn't see much of anything, so if there is, keep an eye out. The description says, "Our beloved player ventures," with the tags multi, 103, and a website link. Opening the website, it looks like a black image, but manually brightening it, it's a 3x3 stone box with a 1x1 hole in the center. I had some confusion after watching this one about a few things, like what the definitive player count is now, and what that box meant. According to a reply on a comment, someone had said the channel description said that the saves recorded were 3. At 103, I checked in both brightening the screen and looking at every frame, but I didn't see anything. From what the comments say, the player might be staring at the 1x1 hole in the wall, but I can't really confirm or say that's certain there. Possible, but I don't see a guarantee. Next is Roller Coaster Experience, that starts with our player in a terracotta room in a cart that sounds like windy audio from a fan or machine in the background. During the roller coaster ride, they barely move, and 2 bees as well as floating torches can be seen on their ride down. Going through a dark tunnel, they seem to stop at the same hole as the images we saw before. The screen then cuts to a blank world with only floating tracks as the player goes forward and falls off of them, ending the video. I will note that this player had a different texture pack on, but it was likely the one from the Acacia video as the resolution matches, being closer to 4x3 than 16x9. The description says, "Our cherished player tests out the roller coaster." It works. The tags say, "Larval, rewarded, and of great use." One comment said that the larval is a stage of infancy for insects like bees, so this could be sign of transformation stage. Earlier, I figured the same based on how the load.slot video signifying the player saves as the bees themselves. Or maybe a representation of them? Maybe the coaster has them see something that allows them to ascend and then fall like a bee? In short, I think that supports the players transforming into bees. But that's just the current theory. Boat Travel has a player with a texture pack trying to place a boat on the water, then swimming forward finding a floating tree. They try to bake the tree, but visibly glitch, losing their hunger bar as they come across a fenced-in bee floating over the water. Moving onward, they find an oak gate that they paddle forward through, transferring them into a similar sky as the roller coaster video. This texture pack is the same one used previously, and others pointed out there's even a bee at the beginning, near what looks like a sunken ship. Another thing is the gate at the end. The wooden gate looks similar to a torii gate, which is a Japanese-style arch that holds significance as transferring from the ordinary world to the spiritual world, or some sacred place of some sort. Now the design isn't exactly like a torii gate, because it only has 1 crossbar and 2 logs going up, but it's the only thing that comes to mind for me with a gate connecting the symbolism. The description says, "Our beloved player moves. They are having the time of their lives." The tags say, "Larval, of great worth, rewarded, employment, united in hour, and sweet embrace." The words seem a bit contradictory, but make sense with bees. A larval of great worth being rewarded with employment, being a drone for the hive. united in our sweet embrace. When you put it that way, this sounds like a coming of, well, not age, but rather transformation into an employee, being rewarded for being so valuable. Player Beginning has us in virtual reality with a completely new texture pack. The bees still have faces, but not the same faces. We can see by the arms that this new player is wearing an Alex skin unlike the previous Steve skins. At 157 we can see a 3x3 stone block with a hole in the center and a poppy in a flower pot. 2 frames later, it is blocked by a white block while a bee is in the left corner. Back to the player, they start to build a house, and at 256 we have the same interruption as before. But instead of returning back to the player, we see a black screen with yellow dots in the middle, while we can still hear the player's gameplay. Again, at 355 we see the flower get hidden, but by an orange block. The player then makes a campfire and watches the stars for a bit until 417 we see the flower again, then getting blocked by a black block. Returning to the player, we only see black and hear loud buzzing as the video ends. The description says, "A new cherished player. How wonderful is he?" The tags say, "Not being aware of what he is in, there's too many of them in the walls, workplace, and please inform ourselves," along with another link. Looking at the comments, I haven't mentioned them by name yet, but Pose Massacre Dep 4134 and I Am Skystrike have been the main commenters documenting each video and discussing possible theories. Looking at their comments after videos has helped me either get a new perspective or find a small detail I either didn't connect or noticed before. And this is no different. For short, I'll be referring to them as Pose, says that the black screen with the yellow dots looked more like ones to them and has a transcript of the image from the link in the tags. I'm still going to just read it straight from the link. Employee Handbook. Section 1. Observance. Use drones. Do not intervene yourself. You will be blank. Section 2. Judgment. Blank. Not allowed. Blank. 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 Reward player. Section 3. Blank. Apes Insecta. Sworn to the Queen. Pretty much all redacted in white. Apes Insecta sounded a bit like Latin to me. I first tried translating it in Greek with no avail, but translating it from Latin, it means bee insect. I will say, when looking at the Latin word for bee, it is actually spelled apis with an I, from all sources I found. While Latin does seem to be right, what if we break them apart? Apis, as in apes like monkeys, and insecta, or insect, monkey insect, or more likely human insects? Honestly, my logic there is a lot more faulty, so the apis part might just be a typo or completely wrong. I don't know. Now we have Building Tutorial Hedge, also with a thumbnail. This is in the same world as last time. Same texture pack and assumedly the same player, considering the lilies in their inventory. The player takes out logs and some leaves from the chest and makes hedges, putting away the spare leaf block. Then the thumbnail appears and they disappear back to the void. The player shifts their hands to a different inventory spots in the void. This could possibly mean something, but I can't think of a code that would come from this first 4 inventory slots. They were also missing 4 lilies from their inventory in the beginning. The description says, "We learn how to make a hedge. It isn't perfect. Likely with the spare leaf." The tags say, "Repent, teach us, knowledge, the walls are the sky," a YouTube link, and "They are all melting together." In the comments, Skywrite, as I'll shorten them to, saw something in the darkness. Cranking the brightness of the video, I see it too, at the end. But the most I can get is some pixels of red and white, barely anything. Even going off individual frames, I got nothing. Moving on to the YouTube link, it's called Preparations from a channel named Dawn Gaming. It's Terraria gameplay, showing the levels scroll by with no player. The screen scrolls by until a point where there is a light going down into a tunnel. Slowly the hole gets filled so that the ground remains dark. Then the video ends. It seems like whatever was moving the camera can only move underground. Hidden. Possibly hiding from the drones, or as previously said, there's too many of them in the walls. The description says, "Something important before starting the game. We hope." The tags are that they will not know, and their buzzing can be heard in the rain. What this means, I don't know. However, Pose is back to say that there are bees in Terraria that are automatically hostile compared to Minecraft's neutral bees. I don't play Terraria, so I'm gonna have to trust them on that. Now let's look at Dawn Gaming as our new player in the ring. The channel's description says, he used to showcase gameplay of Terraria and other means of protections, but he lost his battle. We will upload the proof of his work. Interestingly, Minecraft is not on this channel. Rather, Terraria, Space Funeral, Gary's Mod, Half-Life 2, and Off, as well as Rain World. What I will try to do from now on is go in order, so if we flip from Dawn Gaming to slots available at what might seem at a random time, it's just because that's what they were sequentially uploaded at. The next two videos were released on the same day, July 13th of 2021. But we're going to look at Dawn's first. The video is titled Failure. We have a player what looks like them placing tombstones in the rain, and then a campfire, which leads to bees coming out of the water to attack. The footage is a bit laggy, but the description says, there was a hole in the wall. They say that because, yes, there was a black spot in the water that the bees seem to be coming out of, breaking the bounds between Minecraft and Terraria. Maybe this is what they meant by there's too many in the walls, and that the walls being the sky. The tags say, they try to force us to fail. They inhibit us. The wall took over our sky. We will resist. Mare Tranquilitas 3 times, and they got in through the rain. The repeated phrase, again, looked like Latin, and translates to Sea of Tranquility. The fact that there are 3 gravestones in one player holds a question of who this is, and if the other 3 are the ones trapped in Minecraft, possibly being mourned. Or maybe this is summoning them? The next video is on slots available entitled Emergency Measures. The player has a Super Mario texture pack, and they walk forward through with a stone axe, and we can see a black box with bees stacked over a campfire as they move towards it. The player moves towards it oddly, looking at the bees, as if they don't understand how to move diagonally. They take out their axe to break the campfire, and the screen cuts to black. A command window with yellow text opens, like we've seen previously, signaling a system reboot with a dial tone in the background. The player is back at the same spot with no axe and a hole to the void where the campfire was previously. The description says, management intervenes with the tags, managerial information, pheromones, player punished successfully, file damaged none, and they are no longer larvae. Previously, larvae only defined the player from the roller coaster video, and this one had the player with a texture pack we haven't seen before, but also moving oddly like the previous one. They don't move diagonally, treating the world more as a 2D space than a 3D one when walking. Maybe they're successfully converting to be more useful to the group? Next we have village gameplay. The video starts with the 2 players' perspectives that have 2 different texture packs. The first one I will label cartoon, the second I'll call real, since I don't know the names of the pack specifically. They both start in what looks like the same village, with bees in many spots, and also more than the average amount of bells. The cartoon player has a smaller render distance than real and comparatively less, if so, no villagers in their footage, than real, who sees at least 1. In cartoon's footage, they see a black pillar reaching to the sky, and look around the village, as if searching, looking at all the bees and hitting the bells. At 122, the cartoon player breaks a flower pot with a poppy in it and the fountain, and we see a command prompt style employee's handbook entry reading Section 54, Actions. Drones are not allowed to influence blank. Due to their inability to move, they are not to blank. While our cherished players are able to observe them, employees are not to leave blank in case of blank, as detained in Section 1. Section 55, Rewards, Employment, blank. Section 56, Punishments, Expulsion from the blank. In severe cases, blank. Otherwise. Section 56, blank. The blank, not blank, we will blank. There are some minor errors in the section, like being spelled section in 56 and there being 2 56s. In the meantime of the video, while Cartoon was exploring the village, Real had left and is exploring other biomes, to seemingly get far away, noticing 1 by 1 holes as they walk. Cartoon finds a bee floating over 4 holes and they punch it with a poppy. The description says, our players witness a village they enjoy, with the tag saying, expansion into new ground, walled in, yet the sky is free, and begin the process. The expansion onto new ground and begin the process parts make me think that our previous players have already metamorphized in a way. No longer larvae in the way these new players will begin their process. Announcement to Workers has us back in the Super Mario texture pack with the perspective surrounded by bees. And then flies up revealing they were one. Maybe the Super Mario Pack player metamorphized into a drone, becoming part of the hive. Then we get a black screen with yellow text. New ones must be tested. We require more. Increase the workforce. The description says, a distant meeting was held. A program was made. It contains knowledge. Are we human yet? With an itch.io link right after. The tags say, management, education, test their loyalty to the Queen. The sky grants us life, and the Queen grants us reason. Traveling to the itch.io link, it's named Employee Education Entertainment. It's described as, this is an educational program application quiz for our 3 new employees, as well as the old one. It is obligatory to take. There was a mistake. It has been fixed. It also says it is a project of CoHive Limited, and the CoHive author page says, we enjoy, saves, delta symbol, we cherish our players. The download link gives us an RPG Maker game, which is interesting. Weirdly, the game is made in RPG Maker 2003, which has some controversy from what I've found, not having an English version. Which is why if you try to boot up the game yourself without the runtime installer for RPG Maker 2003 specifically, you will have issues. If you try to run it and have issues, look up RPG Maker 2003 Runtime Install Package for this game specifically. If you want to run it, you need 2003's RTP. The game starts with a black opening screen with only begin, continue, or stop as our options. Beginning the game, we're in a simple white room as a yellow and black box, possibly a drone or even larva. There's an orange box, a green one, and a question number on the wall. The orange box loads an excerpt from the handbook we've seen before. This one says, Section 2, Judgment, Campfire or any other flame-related objects. Disobeyance, harming equipment, see more in addendum. The question asks what the player is not allowed to do. Of the options, campfire is correct and allows us to use the green box to carry on. Answering the question incorrectly doesn't seem to have any negative consequences. It just makes you retry. I tried a few different combinations of purposefully doing them wrong and found no outcome. Question 2 gives an excerpt from Section 54. Drones blank the world blank to return blank. The question, and all others after it, say Question 1, for some reason, but I chalked that up to being an error on the developer's side. It could be on purpose, but I couldn't tell a reason. The question is asking what a drone may not do in front of a player, in which the answer is to return to an employee. The player isn't meant to meet these people for some reason. The third room has the question boxed, and the manual says, Section 4, Terminal. The terminal is to be used in order to carry out judgment of actions described in Section 2. Leaving it unattended is strongly prohibited outside of certain emergencies. Your assigned drone must always be in the left side of your terminal. The question asks about the drone's placement on the terminal. Left. Question Room 4's manual says, Addendum 3. Management. Respect it. It gives you life. It gives you blank. Obey it. Incompliance to its orders may lead to secure its motives. It knows better than you do. The question, again, is in a box and asks us to obey management. Question 5 is in a box asking whose flower is the lily of the valley, which is what we get instead of a manual excerpt this time. The answer is the convict. Our sixth question has no box and is off-center with the manual reading, Section 3, Oath. Nihil ex nihilo fit apes insecta, sworn to the Queen. The oath means, nothing comes from nothing. Bees, insects, according to Google Translate. Answering the question of Section 3 being an oath, we can move on. However, to move on, we need to answer another question. How much did the bells sing? Well, looking back, where have we heard bells sing? Well, it's in the Village gameplay video. We saw the player with the limited render distance at the fountain ringing bells. He rang it once, then it glitched to hit it 6 times, and then once more. 1, 6, 1. Inputting the code, it lets us go into the building that leads us to a small world with the background being what looks like a terminal. Its panoramic view blocking us in. The odd buildings, numbers, and letters nearby are difficult to figure out their significance. But on the top of the level, we can see more terminals with drones rotating through them constantly, save for 3. 3 drones at the top stand still above the rest, rotating. Once we get captured, the game closes. The game does give us a lot of context and information, but gives just as many questions. Why are the employees told to do this? What is it with all these drones? Why were there 3 still there? What is this place, and who is the queen? Fishing Living is our next video and has the player, well, fishing. There's an odd deep droning noise in the background as the player catches and eats a rift. Based on the texture pack used, we can assume this is the player who rang the bells in the video. Eating the rift drains their hunger, but then their hunger gets refilled, as if they can't get hungry. Then they catch a honey bottle, which as they hold, turns into water. Then they get birch leaves, which they place, and a poppy. After picking it up, they look back into the house, where a head looks down on them. The same dotted force symbol we've seen before. Our player, loved by us, is fishing. We messed up. The tags say, the wall breached the sky, and the watching thing. When I first saw this, I thought it was an employee or management cutting the video out of fear of being seen. But it says the wall breached the sky. I thought these 2 words were meaning the same thing. The sky being the wall that keeps the players in. But this watching thing might be part of the wall, breaching their sky instead. Next we have normal playtime, with the player from the last video holding a rift, water bottle, and salmon in their hut. There is a harsh droning noise in the background, which is a higher pitch than before. They look at the crafting table in the window, and we can see the watching thing as the player starts duplicating rifts. In a quick cut, we see them drink water, then grab tools, only to see the entity gone now. Waiting outside of their house is a bee to the left, and they are teleported to a black box with the sky and white snow in a pattern on the ground. They put the flower in the center, and we see a screen saying, deleting world. Description says, nothing out of the ordinary happens to... With the tags being a SoundCloud link, our relished player, it keeps on watching, why, begins. So, great. Now Minecraft ARGs are becoming SoundCloud rapper fronts. It brings us to a SoundCloud page of a user named Goner. Now at this point I had another YouTuber's video as a safety net, by the name Ducklex. I haven't watched his video before this, just to make sure I wasn't spoiled or influenced while writing this script. When I write these scripts, if there's ever a video put out before me, I watch it after my script to see someone else's opinions that I may have overlooked or missed. Like, for the game, which wouldn't work for me, but worked for him, so there must have been a reason. When I got on the SoundCloud page and listened to some of the tracks, they sound easily like they must be hiding something in a spectrogram. So, I looked in his video, where he didn't look at them. So, I looked in the comments and found a user by the name of Prince Von Twix from 2 years ago, linking a Google Doc, and a bombshell that was there was another connected channel, which at the time, 2 years ago, had only just been unearthed. From what the document says about the SoundCloud links, Tut Imitation, the first song, is used in the tutorial videos. The tags for it say Attempt, Normalcy, and Convict, so we can assume the Convict is in the tutorial videos. Replacement Installed has a description of letters and numbers that when put together through a hexadecimal cipher gives, the Queen is pleased, we get to live more. The tag says, they wear down fast, and success. Importance 1's description says, it is our decision, we live in this manner, with the tags our goal, we know, and the best way. Putting the song for a spectrogram, we can see, the hierarchy is strict. Follow it. 2 times. Looking in our tool spectrogram, there's a section with a giant oddity, and I kid you not, for at least a half hour, I was manipulating the image, gave up, then made my own spectrogram, just to find nothing. I thought it was a QR code or something, but I wasn't able to find anything substantial. Victory Hymn has the tags Hymn, Victory, Through the Rain, and Anniversary. Communications is a song that is only tagged Recording and the description Discussion. Queen Tune says, A Taste of Things to Come. It is tagged with the description Lordly and Living with harsh tones in the song itself. These tones make a spectrogram that the document showed being Braille, which is honestly pretty neat. It decodes to Queen is immense. Next is the crown, which is tagged with royalty and has the description of, "There was a lily for each of the three of them." Underneath is a comment from the creator saying, "Joy represented, victorious stampede, question none, the victorious words radiate through them." Procedure is the next piece, with guideline and please in the tags, and a description of, "Be aware of it." The music itself is very mechanical and electric in nature, with a thumbnail saying, "The procedure is imperative to be performed whenever blank. The consequences will be taken care of by Her Majesty." Chamber has a thumbnail of wavy static, like the profile picture, that I feel like could have been manipulated in some way, but I've had no such luck. The tags say, "Sign," and "There were billions of tears." The description is a poem saying, "Fortress of fives, 24 intersections, 21 staircases, 3 memories." The last song is "Devoured," with the tags, "Turned against," and "There is no sin," with a description of, "In this world." The comments from Goner read, "Bearer of the broken blade was upon us. We were not, we never will be. Horse is gone." Now, I know that going through all those songs technically may put us ahead in the timeline information-wise, but this just gives us pieces that we can shove into the puzzle later. So keep a few pins around here. Back to the videos, Duality Players opens us with 2 players in a jungle house, an Alex skin and a Steve skin with the gamer tag Mauer24. The player looks out to see a giant pillar and then go outside to harvest some carrots. Once our perspective tries to harvest them, we get an employee handbook excerpt. Section 6. Convicts. Their actions must be left unpunished. They must be rid. Section 7, which is a 4-dot symbol. The watching thing is inevitable. We do not understand. We do not interact. The video cuts back and the players get their carrots, then boat over to the dark pillar, where we can see a bee and tree as they paddle past. Another bee can be seen, and then a poppy in the middle of a 3x3 snow, similar to the one that was previously deleting a world. Mauer grabs the poppy, and then the two go into the jungle, finding a dark structure where the video ends. 2 of them. 2 of us. They enjoy. We enjoy twofold. The tags say, "We are getting closer." They do not see the sky. Not larva. Not yet. From what I found, the only thing I found about Mauer is that in German it means wall, which, considering what we've seen about walls and the sky in the series, could mean something. Pyramid activity is next on our list, with someone in a modified desert temple, including what looks like a sandstone terminal. Then we cut to a layer above where they were, with grass, some flowers, and a few stones. Then to the bottom of a pit where the terminal says, "Access authorized, welcome." The description says, "Successful, employee has been promoted." The tags say, "Promotion, conversion, and understanding successful mostly." Celebration is next and has the perspective in a White House with multiple drones and then a terminal window celebrating a victory from 5 years ago of getting rid of Convict 1, with his failure being their victory, and a recreation will be made soon for history. I'd also like to note how the house seems like a recreation of someone's real house because of how the computer is made, different to the terminals of the Hive. The description says, "Celebration of a historical event, recorded by," with the tag saying, "The management, he tried to resist, and he failed. And in the sea there was no rain." Now next in sequential order is 2016.01.24-Space Funeral Oddity. It's a video of the surreal RPG Maker game Space Funeral. The player attacks a snow frog and they attack into the snow. But we see nothing as the player wins. The player walks into a skull where we see "Wrong sky, can't comprehend, we will force you to return." A battle commences and it says, "Will of them embraced," ending the video. The description says, "The last attempt at resistance utilizing the series of engines. Didn't work out. Seemed promising, as most of the game was unchanged." The tag just says, "Commemoration." Following this, we have 2014.04.23-Space Funeral Test 1. We follow the player as they find a version of themselves in a casket and find the words, "Forward lie the lands. Take care." The player reads using the casket and then fights some frogs in a flower, a red flower that looks kind of like a poppy. There's a zombie that says, "The lands aren't," and the player continues. The footage starts lagging more as one skull they try entering says, "We refused entry," as they fight another flower. The player runs to another scene where we see a wall and then another red flower in the middle of 4 holes. Going inside, a text box says, "Sky is confusing, unable to perceive well. Must try harder." The player moves forward, encountering a drone, attacking if they win, and find a figure with a yellow shirt, blue pants, and 4 dots in their face. They encounter the watching thing and die instantly. The description says, "First time Clements used RPG Maker media. According to the .txt file of the same name, the area depicted is new, and the lag spike might have been the hive, as he referred to it getting into the media. He called this a possible win." The tags say "Commemorate" and "Before the Storm." This is the second instance of the series using RPG Maker, one of my favorite niche engines for games like, well, RPGs. This game specifically is an old RPG Maker game called Space Funeral, and if this video gets, 10,000 views, I'll do a video on Space Funeral. Nice to get some kind of goal. And if you're interested in RPG Maker, quick plug, but this channel has quite a few of those, from modern RPG Maker horror classics to some old ones like the Strange Man series, just saying. But the words "commemorate" and "before the storm" insinuate that this is some type of recreation that we were promised, or rather, based on the date, what may have actually happened. Going back to slots available, we have Old Memory. We have 3D vision in Alpha Minecraft of a player named Celio21 and their friend. In the chat, we can see we're watching from Mauer, and the chat says there was a large lag spike. After rejoining, Celio says, "Damn right, I noticed one too. Weird." Mauer agrees and then rejoin again to Celio saying, "What the hell?" Celio can't open the balcony. Mauer tries and can open the doors, but not walk through. The two are befuddled and decide to go off exploring when we see a terminal note to all employees. The remembrance begins. Memories from the year of 2010 of our queen and onwards will be provided for obligatory consumption. Accept them as blank. The two go on exploring and find a 4-hole pattern. The two analyze it, becoming more confused and start to hear buzzing. Mauer pauses their screen for a moment, and we see Celio fall into the hole as the video ends. One of our older work. It was harder to influence, but we were stronger too. The tags say Remembrance 1, Memorial, and To the Immense Everything. So maybe the Space Funeral video wasn't the commemoration, but rather this video. It's hard to tell with all the remembrance notions, but let's wait and see until we can decide on one fully. Old Trick is next and takes place in Alpha Minecraft again, with us seeing from Celio's POV instead of Mauer. We can see a burning forest in the background and a chicken that is suspiciously flapping its wings bee-like. That was probably just a visual glitch. Mauer calls attention to the fire and they go in to investigate and say it's a cool-looking new biome. There is a sparse netherrack and glowstone among the lava, fire and regular stone, resembling a basalt delta. The two agree to jump down, and when they do, don't take fall damage or fire damage from the lava. And we see an entry. Graphic 10. The entry to the vast as seen by mankind. If you are a new employee belonging to S10, refer to the graphic for education purposes. The other side has scratches and yellow static that look like it could be another graphic and text, but unintelligible. We then are back to the players where they are in a cave with torches. When we can see the full text chat, it says, "Where the hell are we? Have we been here before? I don't think so. Weird torches are here though, huh? Is this a new feature or something?" The two continue to climb through the cave, making their way up as we hear buzzing. The two struggle to get further until Mauer says, "Wait, what is that up here?" And the video ends. One of our older recordings. They noticed. They remembered. The tags say Remembrance 2, Drone Deployment Testing Medium, Hole Unseen. Back at Dawn Gaming, we have 2014.08, Gary's Mod Car. We start the video on a couch welded to a scout car with the player driving around at a very flat city map. Once they get to some water, we hear footsteps of another player in a skeleton model named Acipiered Snow. There's a Minecraft village house, and next to it in the sky, something white that I can't quite discern. They walk in and the video eventually ends. The description says, "Me and Jonah playing some Gary's Mod, just having some dumb fun." In a conversation, he also mentioned having weird holes and poppies in his inventory in Minecraft. Odd. That's what I remember Clemens texting me on that day. The tags are commemoration, a media fire link, Gmod, why the long face, and how did they know? The media fire link, however, does not work. I remember hearing about this from the document as well. Luckily, the document saves us there by giving a backup RAR and Google Drive file where I can download it. And I'm saying it here, I do not guarantee any safety of the files if you choose to download or find them. Do not download random files on the internet just because I did. Anyway, almamaster0.png is first in the file, and looks like the overhead view of Bayside Town or maybe even the Gmod map. As to me, it looks vaguely familiar, but I can't quite place it. The words alma mater, however, mean nourishing mother in Latin, and apparently is related to alumni of a university in Bologna. Don't know how that helps, but oh well. Alma Mater Approximation 1 gives a different yellow-hued perspective of assumedly the same map. Alma Mater Cave, the Thought 3, gives us a spot that looks more jagged in geometry, making me think that my Gmod assumption may be right, but I'm still going off of a vague thread. Alma Mater Farm 2 is 100% a Gary's Mod map, based on that tree and the building's structure/textures. I've seen enough of the source engine to recognize that in a heartbeat, so I think my Gary's Mod guess was right. Alma Mater Similarity 4 shows a house in the wooded mountain area. Bay 0 gives us an image of the Gary's Mod map from the car video we just watched. Bay Crook 1 must be a different perspective within the map. Bay Paths 2 is, again, another perspective of the bay. Bay Sin 4 is interesting because it looks out onto the physical bay area instead of the city. Bay Yellow 3 is a hallway. The last file is named Place, which is an audio file with horrendous music. It sounds like something that might give us clues to a spectrogram. Every place connects to a hole. Every hole is a honeycomb. Every honeycomb is a place. And there's a line above it that's too hard to make out, but my guess is everyone connects to a place. The lines, however, are too displaced for me to tell. Now that we've delved into the files, we can see 2014.08.27 Gmod hovercraft. We have the player in a hoverboat on a mountainous, snowy map, riding through a dark tunnel where they come out in an area that looks like the pictures from the map. Suddenly a Half-Life drone comes and rushes the player, ending the video. I'm not even surprised by the changes in location anymore. Odd manifestation of the drones, however. Limits. The tags say commemoration, hole, liminality, and an ibb.co link. The link leads to an image of a dark underground hallway next to a train track with a red light over a dark door. The image is named Hole Contained with a description of 24. Our next video is 2016.01.24, Last Day. It's just a skybox with the description the last day I'll ever have, now the others know they shouldn't have. Clarence M. Johnson. The tags say I could hear them all along. They will celebrate, and they will remember my deeds. Commemoration XXIV. Those letters, for those who don't know, are numbers in Roman numerals, meaning 24. Next we have 5, from slots available. It's another short video with loud static and small render distance as the player falls through a hole into a yellow concrete floored world with a yellow sky. At 29 seconds for 2 frames, there's a Steve face followed by what looks like Hebrew. The description says, he witnesses her. With the tags, the end comes in 5s. Her many faces, and royalty. According to the comments, the Hebrew even means queen. Building tutorial decoration number 1 has the player in the same tutorial world as last time. In their inventory is less lilies as they grab from the chest. The video is a bit laggy as the player builds a bee nest out of hives. At about 54 seconds, we can see the watching thing a short distance away as well. The player then sees it and runs toward it. They type hello, and we can see their name as Fortress of Fives. They call the watching thing their old friend as we see a terminal screen that ends the video. The image is hard to see on YouTube because it's the frame YouTube closes the video on, but it reads Employee's Handbook Addendum 24 Revision 2, The Watching Thing. Possible countermeasures and origin. 1.1. As a side effect of the procedure, it may have been blank. Human. C. blank. 1.2. Therefore, she may blank, 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 blank. 2.1 is a previous denizen of the vast. 2.2. If this is the case, Immediate actions must be taken in order to neutralize it. 3.1. It is us. 3.2. The 4-dot symbol. Genuinely, that image is scary because it reminds me of a mixture of SCP-3008's IKEA employees merged with Reggie Rock. The side of the image is also very glitchy, and from what I can tell, not uniform enough to be Braille or Morse code, but it's difficult to tell. Dawn Gaming brings us back to 2015.04.05 B-Hop compilation, where the player B-hops around maps in Garry's Mod. At 019, there's a frame of the symbol saying, "We think we know now." The player jumps toward a deformed pyro model, similar to the one that can be seen in the scout car video. Then we see the player from a third-person perspective in an odd spot where they see the camera. Shoot at it, then disappear. Some B-hopping I recorded. Clements. The tags are commemoration, Garry's Mod, hopping, and how'd it know my intention? Next is 4. These letters. According to Google Translate, it's Greek for hope. The watching thing stands over an ocean next to a potted wither rose as the player 24 reverberations says, "So we meet again. Son of Pagramation." Once more, in a land of fallen casing, covered with its ashes, I may be overly dramatic, but so are my broken kin. We do not belong here and never did. He belonged. He was red. He was taken. Yes, I know we unite against a common enemy. You really think this is an option? On war, anything thinks. What an odd saying. Only your kin could come up with such nonsense. You're right. Forgive my ignorance. They look up and ring a silent bell 3 times. Begin. And the video ends. Thousands were lost the first round of chess is coming to a conclusion. The tags say, warring, shattered, hopeless, and daughter of Alkanost. Son of Pangramation and daughter of Alkanost gave interesting results, to say the least. The first seemed to be from Hindu folklore, that, I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't find a thread relating to this story based on what I found. The daughter of Alkanost gave a bit more, however. Alkanost is a Slavic folklore goddess? She has some origins in Greek mythology too, with, from what I found, pre-Greek roots. I couldn't find a lot, but I found information about how she would lay eggs in the sea that cause storms, and that she has properties of being able to sing and make people forget things, never wanting anything more. Similar to a siren, but not the same. There is also a story about her in an apple orchard, which I can only connect to the player in the last video getting a large sum of apples. Erase.slot has a black and white view of a terminal with a wither rose. The perspective goes over to the slots next to them, breaks the poppy, replacing it with a campfire, and jumps down the hole. There is an omega symbol with 1 ending the video. They have been locked, is the description, with the tags being sutured, burnt, exiled, rain returns, revitalized, and crying. I would like to note that the thumbnail has a screenshot of what looks like the first ever footage of Minecraft from when it was in a game jam, to a black cloud and 1 over it. Conclusion 1 has us start in the game off. The player's profile has an odd face with 4 dots and odd characters with the suffix emissary. Their class is Savior. State is pure. Level is 24, and name is... Their weapon is a broken Zweihander, a long sword. It looks like there are possibly drones on pedestals, and the NPC the player talks to has an odd face, saying, "And face the queen? Aoria Latieria." Translates to eternal worship. A load screen shows chapter with an omega symbol. Last we saw that it had 1 in it. Going up golden steps, the player eventually hears "Why?" as a battle starts. The screen is difficult to tell what it is. The player chooses to use the move Hatch, where the text simply says, "It hatches," and ends. The recovery, the hatching, the fiend flees the storm oncoming. The tags say Act 1 and finite reinterpretation. It seems that the move used was hatching of one of the eggs that cause a storm. Sanctuary at Spring is next, with a Minecraft version named Springtime in green, with flowers texturing over the grass. The music is oddly hopeful and serene, with light rain in the background. The player then finds a thorny rose and picks it up. Going forward, we can see a few more as they end up near some logs and a box that seems to affect the ambience when touched. Hitting the pause screen, the bottom left says, Saving Abode, and hitting stop gets us a screen that says, Now rest. The description says, but this doesn't feel the same. It felt safe. It felt like a sanctuary from a being that has been with mankind for eons, and way before it. There are little qualms in a place most beautiful and safe. However, as soon as the tags say CY-0, Sanctuary, an endless field to shield all those who come, and likely safe. Funny enough, on this video, there's a comment from Ducklick Max about how he literally just finished editing a video on the series, and it got uploaded an hour later. Do I know that feeling? Carrot Spring shows the player with more flowers and a few animals around in the same world. We can also see their inventory and skin have a yellow hue to them. Another interesting thing is the bird ambience, which was originally going to be implemented in one of the alpha Minecraft builds, but never did. The player continues to walk and finds the sunshine eroding as dark clouds cover an area they come across. They investigate a rubble cobblestone structure with odd water-filled logs. There's another mysterious jukebox-looking piece, and they type, "This doesn't make any sense." Instead of a player name, however, it says, "You say." What is the purpose of this? They struggle to type their next line, shifting from a question of where to why. Why is this changing? They place down a yellow flower, and we see it act as a torch. I refuse to believe that I'm alone. They save their abode and disconnect to rest. The cycle is separated into 4 parts for those who are within it. The 5th iteration is solely accessible to one person, whose name is not important in our dealings, friend. The walls of the sanctuary stood sturdy, bearing the sky upon them. However, the tags are also interesting. CY-0. He has been granted the ability to speak and communicate. It is within my greatest hopes that they will be of use. Rest assured, the dew was cold that day, yet the sun shone brightly. Sanctuary at summertime has us in a slightly different version. Summertime. The player has 1 red flower and 15 yellow ones, finding puddles and hearing bees buzz. This is very odd. The electronic music gets a bit more intense as they go forward. The night is not supposed to be so bright. It is not supposed to be so swelteringly warm. They continue to move forward and find more water. None of this water was here yesterday. He walks to the cave and believes it is safer to hide than whatever is flooding the puddles. This may not be home, but is it the next best thing? They stop and rest, ending the video. The corpse of a divine is not something that just rots away. You should know it as well as your kin. Rest assured, you have already done the preparations in advance. Have you not? Rays of the summer sun grace the land even at night. He is never as close to the original goal as before. If only it were... The tags say CY-0. They attempt once more, and what a pointless persistence. It seemed like CY-0 is the designation for the player we view from the sanctuary location. For some reason the bees are trying to get in, but their persistence is pointless. Our next video is Communion in the light of a million glaring golden stars at summer. The player is in a cave with 1 less flower amid the screen fades to white as odd fantastical moans and a chorus take the audio with a thunderous but far-off storm in the background. Once we fade back to the player, we see a wooden basin with water and yellow flower. They open it and open the chat for us to see who's speaking. I cannot be told that nobody is. I have heard such sounds before, if you're willing to help me, so please answer some questions. First, why am I unable to create objects? Understood. Second, why do I have to choose? Thank you for the clarity. Is there any way to help this? Oh, we can't have this little leeway. Are they the same as those who laughed relentlessly? This doesn't explain anything. And then they add, I may not know why you put these here, but thank you for all the help you provided. Does it really have to end now? Do we really have to move the cycle again? I need some time to decide. The description says he asked me questions. Few did, few knew, and fewer wanted to. I should have expected this exposure to other of kin tends to assist in such understanding. Of course, I answered them in earnest. Soon there would be a point of no return, a point that... The video has a lot of tags, but another commenter actually figured out that these were the responses to the player's questions, so let's revisit that text. You say you're willing to help me, so then please answer some questions. First, why am I unable to create objects? The sanctuary is to maintain integrity, as it is a system to balance carefully. You say, understood. Second, why do I have to choose? Such is the cycle you are beholden to. Alongside others, it is needed for structural integrity. You say, thank you for the clarity. Is there any way to help this? You are already helping the effort by tending to your abode. As long as the walls stand tall, one of the fellow parts of the Pantheon cannot trespass. Oh. We can't have this little leeway? This is highly delicate. Of course, you should understand. You say, are they the same as those who laugh relentlessly? No, they are not. Although you may find their colors familiar. You say this doesn't explain anything. Now I want to revisit that point about those who laughed relentlessly, because we will see it far later. But the colors we seem to be looking for are possibly the bees in yellow. Someone else very close, not so near, has us back in the summertime where we come across the same stone structure. But the stone has holes and is bloody now. The player has a sapling as well and approaches the dotted block, hitting it. Summons a static blue screen with small black text pleading us to leave. Coming back, it is night, and there are the new flowers with water piled up at the top in them. The world seems to be subterranean, with odd blue blocks above the player. They continue to walk around illuminating some spots until they come up to a blue spot on the roof, holding their red flower. It smells like petrichor. This feels like trespassing. The world is far too distorted to be normal. This reminds me of the growths, but perhaps benevolent? I'm not sure. Should I interact with this or not? We can hear them buzzing, grow in the background while they stare into the blue. It's so much water here. So much. A permeating mist. The player steps closer and the video ends. The description says, there are certain keys to some conduits. He found one before in the monolith. It was his salvation. Now, however... The tags don't seem to be answers like last time, but they are innards of an indivine are not a part of Euclidean space or law. The forms they take in the areas they leach into are subject to equal change and subjugation. Rain was with mankind since eons long past. It is only natural it would follow it into the last age. Let us hope he will not damage anything while inside, as his presence here is. These tags felt more like a conversation of spectators, possibly the same ones from the previous description and tags. One thing I'd like to note is the word petrichor, meaning smell present when fresh rain falls after a period without rain. I'm still trying to figure out how the rain ties into these notions of sky, bees, a watching thing in the hive. Floral sunrise somewhere else is next, where the version is duty time, instead of a season with the player only having one gray rose in a gray world. The dirt is cobbled and sky is gray, as they mention it's dreary as usual. So it is indeed my time again on duty, is it not? Our player says as they approach the dotted black and water-filled logs. Yes, I do remember the rite. The flower of fervor is still here. The shoot is still ready to be sent to the right destination, to the right recipient. I don't know why you've chosen such a lost cause. Nor do I know what are you even planning. But if this will be of importance, then it will be done with due diligence. The dotted block is surrounded by the water-filled flowers as the player approaches. Let's hope the ripples in the pond of possibilities will be most beneficial, if your assessment is to be trusted. Oh well, no turning back now. The foci and the chute are all ready. The player interacts with the block, showing an odd user interface with their inventory being the normal gray, as they place the flower inside. Another blue status screen says, "Flower of Fervor transferred. May the recipient find it useful. For a storm is gathering." The description says the Flowers of Fervor were sent to numerous people throughout the... There are also a lot of long tags, being... Many thought it was a futile move, as even the broken blade could barely quell the forces of the offending kin. It still worked out in the long run. Oh, it did work out so. As it did once before, and many times before then. Spaced evenly. This again feels more like a conversation between higher beings. More accurately, those that are watching in the perspectives we see somehow. Now we are chronologically missing some videos at this point, but before I mention them, we're going to finish off Dawn Gaming slots available before the next contender in the ring. Data Unknown Off Sanctuary Iteration has the player on an island before a red box, where a cat character stops them saying, "Clements, halt! Heed this final warning. The task you are about to undertake is strenuous and difficult. None have succeeded before. This is my final warning. May the ripples in the lake of fate be in your favor." Item notification. The Flower of Fervor has been found. Before the box, the player chooses to go back to nothingness, and ends up in a place denoted by the left as World Map. The player finds a spot labeled Zone 0, and enters an odd blue-hued world where a title card says Zone Rain, with a black rose below. After it fades, we hear a knocking noise and the video ends. "I didn't expect to receive the very object I have sent, Clements." The tags say, "If only such safety was easy to sustain, and on the scale of the Pantheon." Our last video from Dawn Gaming is Rain Recording Outskirt Oddity, where we open up in the game Rain World. The game doesn't seem too odd, minus the lag near the end. However, we can also see small orange eye-like creatures watching the player like drones. I feel like the creature AI was less aggressive here for some reason, and that there's usually more creatures, but I haven't played the game myself, only watched it, so I could be wrong on that instance. The lag is odd, though. The description says, "Someone's knocking on the wall." The footage has been recorded with the aid of a Broken Blade representative. The tags are, "The measure seems to be a worthy trap, largely due to the narratives. One wreck and cycle 1. Now, before hitting the last few slots videos, I want to sit on the thought of Rain World for a moment, especially the last recording. Rain World is a brutal game, from all that I've watched and heard. The game centers a lot on being a prey, having to go throughout the cycles to evolve and survive. But the notions of cycle, as mentioned in the tabs, being cycle 1, mirrors the constant mention about larvae and bees. I think it's an interesting premise, possibly saying that Clements is now stuck in a cycle. What kind? Well, not sure. Especially with this Broken Blade representative. Intermezzo-1 has us back in the duty time version in complete darkness with sparse green and red lights ahead. The player approaches what looks like to be some altar and says, "At long last, I wonder what knowledge will you impart upon me now." The player interacts with it and finds a text. Query 1. Floral communication plants are inconstant in all worlds with the Indivine scavenge. Thus, similar flowers serve multiple purposes. The only Indivine incapable of floral communication hasn't formed due to the specific circumstances. The player exits the panel, looks to the sky, and says, "It makes about as much sense as it always has." Turning around, looking into a flame, they say, "Will the flame in one," ending there. Upon the completion of a rite, knowledge is imparted upon me. The picture is so much bigger than we think. The tag says, "Of any use with this time frame, intermezzo, and preparation for the storm." Intermezzo, from the definition that I found, means a piece in an orchestra that is often with a solo instrument connecting two pieces together. Similar to possibly this one individual connecting two other entities together in some way. It's a little difficult to find out at the moment. Our last video from the slots available channel is the sound of a blade breaking. The video has odd music, sounding almost like a Scottish bagpipe you'd hear before battle. Text comes on slowly, noting this as an announcement. It shows an image labeled 1, Luna with the moon saying, "Your shield." The second is named Rain of Hands, labeled as our bureau. The third is Companion, that looks like a cat with the caption, Your Anchor. 4 is the Monolith, with text saying, It is his exit. 5 is a sword named A Declaration with Our Duty. Next is an odd bulb for 6, what looks like to have tentacles named A Precaution with blue text that says Our Guarantee. 7 is a Rite of Reckoning with floating candles surrounding an altar with the words Our Judgment. 8 is a Watching Thing, the same as before with tiny text possibly saying Infiltrator or Inflamer, but it's too small to tell. Next to it are the words Our Hands. Last is a sunset-shaded room labeled Room with the words A Gilded Husk Embrace a Concept Fully. Hold the Flame. The text disappears with a faded set of text behind it saying, And dissolve the self within. The description says, One of the kin exacts authority over domains of others, as if she were a voracious beast. One of the kin was presumed removed from the board, but you already know the conclusion of that. One must step in and exact the law. The tags are even more interesting because similar to a previous video in the Sanctuary, the tags are responses, or rather reactions to the things shown on screen. I'll just go in chronological order. 1. Apparition of a second satellite. 2. Domain made manifest. 3. To erase the process. To be viewed. 4. A crucial detail. 5. The sign known to all our kin. 6. A trick planted within a narrative. 7. An invocation of law. 8. A familiar face and intervention. And the last one says, Hold the flame, let it warm one before it is time. Now, is this the last slots available video? Yes. Kinda. But the series is far from over. But before I get to that, I just want to make some out-of-script comments, because I think I'll forget them later if I don't make them now. Now let's go back to that list of things. So first we have 1, Luna, the moon. So somehow the moon is a shield. The second is Rain of Hands, labeled as our bureau. So this seems to be a bureau of ethereal entities. And based off the other section, this might be where, like, the queen of the hive was before getting kicked off and trying to exact revenge with the hive. The third is the companion that looks like a cat, probably the cat from Off that tried to label or help Clements as their anchor. 4 is the monolith, saying his exit. We've seen monoliths before, but it won't be the last time. 5 is a sword named A Declaration with Our Duty, which we'll see more about swords later. Next is an odd bulb for 6, which had tentacles. I think this might be the Rift, since it's named A Precaution with text in blue that says Our Guarantee. 7 is a Rite of Reckoning with floating candles surrounding an altar with the words Our Judgment. The only times we've seen altars and candles are really in that one roller coaster video and the Sanctuary. Now, the roller coaster video is pushing it, but that's where we have seen floating torches, at least a few. And the Sanctuary had altars, not really floating candles, but this could be referenced to something else. And then 8, the Watching Thing, of course, we know what that looks like. But now we're on to Hold the Flame, as the series is still far from over. On YouTube, they're tagged as External Nerves Connectivity, which has 7 videos on their channel. And while at first it doesn't look like anything like slots available, have trust in the document. Again, thank you to the creator of the document for giving me a direction to this last channel. I likely would not have found it on my own, so let's dive into this last source. The description of the channel is, I'm stuck in a constant hell world, with the first video being discussed. We start in Minecraft InDev with nether-looking textures and an odd user interface. The world around them is dark as they try to pick up some wood and assumedly dirt. Exploring, they can find odd plants that look like little tentacles. Exploring further, they see a weird-looking flesh creature, which leads them to go back to the brick hut they spawned in, staring into a torch. Embrace a concept fully and dissolve the self within. Similar words to what we heard in the last slots video. There are no tags for this video. Gilded Glory is next, with the Minecraft version being effectively garbled. Their user interface is black and they break out of the hut to end in a different world. Brighter, but looking more akin to a floating hostile savanna. The sun here matches the hue to the room concept we saw previously. The audio in the background is largely sporadic, but sounds like footsteps and banging or wails of pain. The player continues to explore around to the harsh noises, looking at the oddities around it like a green squirming head. The player loops back around to their hut and picks up one of the red tentacle flowers from before, still looking to the void for answers. After exploring, they jump into the void, ending the video. It was encased into a gilded shell. The new sun hurts and wails and brings down smiling things. They smile and they are many. I am one. And alone without familiar faces to see, I must return to where home was. So, note those smiling faces and remember how some of them were before. Miss Destination has what looks like a menu of corrupted text, based on how one of them loads into a world. This is likely one of the alpha world loading screens. First time we've seen the menu. The world is similar to the first, dark and red, but corrupted with the black bars like the second. The sun is orange and yellow with everything around indiscernible through the red hues. In the distance there seems to be structures of something, but it's far too hard to make out. The gravity is all wrong, and beautiful in its vivid dreams. Here and nowhere at the same time, even the smiling, laughing, crying, screaming agony things fear the nothing to nobody. Trapped in a laughing room is next, which has the player with a few odd items in their inventory, stuck in a room of yellow, smile-pained faces. The audio is corrupted, distorted, with torturous laughter as the player peers out of the one hole in the box, being careful as if not to get spotted. Or maybe try and find help. They're going insane in the laughing room and end up in a corner as the video ends. How did it get here? Why is this here? Why are they parasiting? Birthing trees are. Why are they all laughing without air? How did it get here? Why this there? Why are they parasiting? They're birthing trees, or why are they all laughing without air? The rest of the description has the same lines repeated, getting more nonsensical every time until the last few lines. I have to loop. Now we're looking back to the concept of a loop. I know we've been spearing through the videos at a pretty fast rate, but let's look back on these for a moment. First off, the answer is either very obvious or I'm very wrong, but I believe we're looking from Clemence's point of view. In future context, I am wrong. I'm still not entirely sure what has happened to every player or how many total there have even been. Probably somewhere close to 10 by an off-the-head guesstimate, probably actually lower. Based on that idea of Cycle in the Rain World video and the repeated mentions of the Queen's organization somehow defeating him, I think it may be the one banished to hell. Again, this is hard to tell, especially on the timeline, as many of the Hold the Flame videos happened before the last few slots available videos, so we'll have to create a timeline of events by the end of this. Before that, let's finish laying out the rest of the information. Main screen has the interface more broken, odd black corroded symbols on the top half as the player walks through a pure white fog, with one cloudy looking ground. They walk into the edge of the fog only to walk back, and it's hard to tell what directions they go in such a blank canvas. At one point there's a small black blob floating around and they continue onward. Eventually a match sound strikes as the screen turns black and we hear a flame roar. My hands are not quite bound in this land of respite. I do not know where it is either. All I do know is the warmth of these flames will eventually become unbearable and force me back into the place. The sand here is truly warm. It breathes just like raw flesh. Who is there singing? Second circle gives us a frame of the player in an odd inventory, and then we see the warped version of this world. There's an odd bar in the right corner, and the skybox looks like skin under a microscope with more changes to the player's hotbar. The world around them renders and glitches with the eye in the center of their screen being bigger and clearly open. The player walks around being careful to determine whether a white gap was just not loaded or would plunge them into the void. At the end, they choose to stand on the edge and seemingly walk in on their own volition. The description says, "This land is new to me. I cannot see it, but I can hear the new sun. The land behind me gets swallowed with a whimper. The land before me, in all its revolting vastness, gets restructured with ugly stitches and coagulated stagnant air. The most self-similar and mind-numbing landscape stitches unto forever in front of me, and it will not stop no matter what I try. I cannot turn away my gaze. I feel some sort of bodily tether." The last public video we have is End the Rain Watched. We're not in Minecraft, but rather Doom. where the player walks across a blue floor, similar to the blue nodes from one of the Sanctuary videos. The player walks to a white monolith, and before they can reach it, the screen goes black with a sound like waves playing. I believe I've found a way out. Through a million fronds and laughing faces, I have found something that is something that always was, something beyond pure, a pillar befitting a true pantheon. If only I could. The tags are Monolith, Forefather, Little Did He Know, He Let Someone Else In. A YouTube link, the chess game resumes, and from another point in time. The video was posted February 16th, the next day. Sanctuary at Spring was uploaded. I think that the two could be tied in some way, with the monolith leading to the Sanctuary, perhaps? But I've teased long enough. The last video. It is back on the Slots Available channel, named Down Upon My Sacred Flesh. Our player arises from the water into a foggy world, but normal for what seems like ages. They look to the sky as a logo fades on, Mayfly Pantheon. The description says, flame held extinguished, perhaps as a result. The tags are, perhaps the rain will wash away, the circle of pain and a million laughing voices. The flame I once held is long gone and extinguished. Well, after all this, seems to be it. I have a nagging feeling in the back of my head that there was something missing. Something about the Mayfly Pantheon, and a few other details made me think we're missing some information. Now, there is more information in the document, from things such as an email Q&A and to an official statement to another channel that has been officially stated as non-canon. There is some information I'll be using that pulls a tiny bit from the emails that is just vague information confirming small things, or adding on to information we already got. I even tried looking into the Retro Gaming Now Discord, where I participated in a few discussions that have ended up being videos, and even found one on Slots Available that it's kind of dead. But apparently, that's actually where the doc originates from, so thank you to the RGN community who had actually made this doc, without me knowing it was them. Now I'm going to do a little stealing by going over the proposed theories and plot from the document and then seeing if I agree with them with what they come up with, along with my own position on the facts. Now, a theory that sounds interesting from their end is how the Rain is a group, with Convict 1, Clements, being a part of it. They cite the gravestones from the Terraria video of Convict 1 breaking out, then the drones following. Now, I'm not going to delve into all their theories, or points that have labeled as unknowns, so let's look at the plot. If you want to see every theory and piece of evidence for yourself, the document should be linked below somewhere, if I can get it there. Going over their quick timeline, they believe that the watching thing was chronologically seen first as Space Funeral Test 1, was prior to most of the modern Slots Available uploads. Bauer and Cello, or Celio, encounter the early Hive in Alpha Minecraft, and are resisting them still in Village gameplay. At some point, Clements starts to try to combat the threat of the Hive, and has his biggest successes in fighting them with RPG Maker titles, such as Space Funeral and Off. After Space Funeral stops working, Clements starts seeing them in Gmod with his friend Jonah. When they see the Minecraft house phase into their world, Clements goes to Terraria and tries to seek help from the Rain, who fight against the Hive. The Rain, being some form of rebel organization from their theories, this would make sense with how the employees seem to be averse to the Rain, but differentiate between rain, sky, and walls as if none of them are synonyms. They fail in the Terraria video, and Clements' exploits stop in 2016. 5 years later, the Hive begins their recruitment process in Read.Slob. By targeting innocent players, they become larvae. The first experiment has 2 players gain fuel for the Hive in Animal Farm, and at this point, Jonah starts to combat the Hive as well by attempting to use a campfire in the Sky video. Jonah is caught and then sent to the tutorials, where they attempt to brainwash or punish him to become an employee, possibly. The Hive then starts mass employment, and there's 1 player punished because they accidentally captured 3 drones in a campfire. This is around the time of the recruitment program game. The watching thing then chooses to resurface and monitors the victims of Hive as a character named Employee A, who is promoted. This employee was briefly mentioned in that video about the desert temple where they fell into the hole, but there's also a note about how a player attracts the attention of the queen, but the document admits that that lead is a bit cold. Jonah, who is named Fortress of Fives at this point, re-encounters the Watching Thing in his last tutorial as the Watching Thing and 24 Reverberations meet to remake the rain to fight the Hive. They succeed and lead to a race.slot where spring is in full bloom, and Hold the Flame player aids the rain, presumably when the Hive is trying to repair themselves. Now, that's the proposed plot, and this is a different timeline that a member named Fuzzy proposed. They have it labeled as Act 1 based on the video conclusion one, but there's no definitive Act 2 that really mandates us calling it this, at least that we know of. The player in Hold the Flame gets sent to their purgatory, and the Hive steals the placement of power from the smiling things for the player to flee. The Hive pried out their cords, the one divine god's dying shattered flame. So effectively, they stole the flame. The flame is extinguished as the player flees through the monolith, and they are now in Sanctuary as the Hive wages their war. This confused me a lot, but there was one point in the Q&A where the team surmised that the gods, whatever they were, lost leaving room for the Hive to make their own sort of cult thing. It makes me think that the player in Hold the Flame is actually a godly figure or protector of some sort. I want to play out this idea a little later. Anyway, continuing on Fuzzy's theory, they seem to have claimed to side with humanity, leaving Hold the Flame, the Angel, the Broken Sword, and the Rain to go against them. The fire is extinguished, and the Hold the Flame performs the rite, giving the Flowers of Fervor to our lovely players. Clement then encounters the Watching Thing, and with the other players goes to the Rain. The Rain loses against the Hive, leading to Clement placing those gravestones in the Terraria video. Now, the next part about Clement show somehow get captured and has a procedure done on him to extract refined blank. It's not specified in the document, and I couldn't find the name. This apparently leads to him becoming the Watching Thing. This part confuses me a bit, because it says how he was created by the Rain and the Broken Blade as like a joint project. Jonah then tried to take out some of the drones during the Sky video, where he becomes cornered and tries to use some fire. Unfortunately, this leads to Jonah getting captured, leading to all the tutorial videos. The theory poses that all the organizations fail, which has Jonah waiting for the Watching Thing to presumably come save them. The Hive is now busy gaining fuel in Animal Farm and working on mass recruitment after the tests on some players. One player does not get recruited and instead punished, becoming no longer larva, because they had accidentally placed a campfire, trapping 3 drones. They might have also been used to make an example of, for the Hive to get more authority in a way. Now, next we have 24 Reverberations meeting with the Watching Thing to discuss a plan about the Rain. But while 24 Reverberations seems to have their doubts, they agree with the plan. A race.slot happens where the Watching Thing is believed to be the one who erases the slot, leaving a campfire to ensure that the employees and drones can't be used as backup. This might lead to the Vast, the place the drones and employees go, possibly even where the Queen is. It's said that the Watching Thing wields the broken sword to hatch the egg of Alkanost, that mythical bird creature that eggs produce storms, a metaphor for the Watching Thing to hatch the rain perhaps, using the broken blade? The theory seems to end with the Queen fleeing and the Hive lying about being on the human side and their actions. A lot of this is not particularly unusual, and this is based on the bullet points of the theory. It sounds a bit scattered, especially in my telling of it. The timeline for this series seems to be generally confusing, with possibly some continuity errors as the editors of the document have noted. I agree with a lot of the points made, but the order definitely confuses me with some of the established time-wise. I may have misunderstood it, but I feel like Clements being the Watching Thing does and doesn't make sense. It would make sense what happened to him those years ago, and what the activity of the Watching Thing seems odd, but if it possibly interacted with Clements, that doesn't make much sense. I think I'm going to steal some parts of their theories. I think that logically, first, the Broken Sword and Hold the Flame situation happened at where they have it. I think I can agree that the Watching Thing could be Clements, which would make sense why Jonah says old friend, and how he conspires with 24 Reverberations. Interestingly, I think that Jonah being named now Fortress of Fives, along with the other 2 having changed their names, may display how they've changed under the Hive, or they're working with these organizations that go against the Hive. As stated from the creator, The watching thing was a joint between the broken sword and Rain. Based on what I've been found regarding the fight between the Hive and these other organizations with the Hive, holding the flame and it being extinguished, I think that place we saw, Hold the Flame, first was a realm of some sort with it being imprisoned? After all the running, I think that this means that Hold the Flame player was one of the gods, or protector, or some sort of important figure, that when gotten rid of, allowed the Hive to get through, or some entity related. Another thing in my mind that confuses this is the Sanctuary. The timeline is really weird, so I have two possibilities to this. One, the Flame player was originally in the Sanctuary, leading to the Flowers of Fervor being distributed. This would make sense as to why we slowly get more and more buzzing with some rain coming in that one nether-like area. And two, that the Flame character had been trapped first and then escaped to the Sanctuary. From all the information I have, I think one of the two options happened, but the timeline in the document proposes that read dot slot led to load, which led to erase. These then trigger the Sanctuary videos. In the timeline portion of the document, what little is concrete to us, they have the sound of the blade breaking as last, after Clemens/Dawn Gaming was defeated. I think that the broken blade may have been founded later than theorized, with the Rain being one of the earlier organizations. Hold the Flame must be some important figure. But based on the fact that he is commanded to do the right, like others, they aren't in control. But I feel like these looming voices can't be the Hive either, since this leads to the Flowers of Fervor getting sent out, the things that seem to allow the Rain to come together from the players. The Hive is a bit more confusing in this regard. We can tell they have a queen. The drones, employees, and managers, this organization seems antagonistic and cult-like, similar to a dictatorship with all the rules and sections we have access to so far. The Broken Blade is a bit of an oddity, as there was a prevailing theory that the Broken Sword and the Watching Thing were effectively the same, but it was disproven and the other things mentioned in the video did stump the other theorizers. The Monolith, Watching Thing, and Broken Blade are the three we kinda know for sure. One metaphor that confused me was the Achenolost. In mythology, its eggs create storms, and in this series, it creates one big enough to disturb the Hive. The Rain, I believe. When we look at it as a whole, this series is a mystery, but a pretty great ARG. We get a taste of many mysteries and layers to peel behind, to find out the machinations of a story that, personally, I still don't really understand. A story that revolves around this organization trying to take over the world and fighting between rivaling factions that control players in their recruitment. Honestly, it's a pretty interesting series that I urge all of you to check out if you're interested in trying to dissect such a mystery as well. If you enjoyed the video, I recommend another evil organization that's trying to take over the world by controlling players and recruiting them under odd circumstances. Check out my video on Andrew Games ARG. It's a series that's still ongoing, and as of writing this, I have a sequel video kind of in production, and it should be out someday this year. Hopefully. But yeah, if you're interested in this, if you enjoyed this video, please check out my Andrew Games 722, Andrew Gaming 67, and Player 30 ARGs. They're some of my biggest, and I also have some Gmod ARGs, which was... I'm blanking at the moment. I believe it was Plastic Apple 2011, and I don't remember. Oh, Otis Gaming 2009? I don't know. Somewhere close to this, too. Anyway, I'm in the rambling section of the outro now, where I just kind of freeform it. Seriously, though, if you enjoyed this video, please check out my other content. I know these ARG videos get a lot more views, but if you enjoyed this, you might actually enjoy the other videos I have, especially the RPG Maker ones. They're not very viewed for how much I actually enjoyed them. Vindictive Drive was a good long video too. I'm just pointing in the directions of a bunch of videos I like. And I hope you liked them too. If you enjoyed though, please subscribe to see more, and like or comment. We also have a Discord where you can put suggestions and talk with me. We're trying to get it built up and built correctly, which is a little frustrating. But, yeah. Oh, and the other channel. If you're more into high energy gameplay with a bunch of idiots, check that channel out. It's called The Day Shift. It should be in the description and labeled. By the time this video comes out, there should be between 3 and 5 videos out for it. I know I have 3 finalized right now. I want to get a 4th. I probably won't get to 5. But I want to also make a channel trailer for it, so I guess technically 4? Anyway, I'm just rambling. I really hope you enjoyed the video. But yeah, this was fun to make. And if you have any other ARG suggestions, I know these videos do a lot better than my other ones, but comments, criticism, and suggestions are always welcome. It's been me, Mush. I'll see you later. Arrivederci.